There are times where people are intimidated by your confidence or your audacity to dream, because in their mind, they're helping you. But then how dare you dream? We need to start having conversations with leaders and organizations all across Canada to open their eyes to the value that we bring, and then also teach them and help them be able to pull that value from each person.
Welcome to this special episode of the Canadian Dream Podcast. I'm sitting today with someone who lives in Ontario, in Kitchener, near Toronto, and he's here today in Vancouver to chat a little bit with us about his journey as a Canadian immigrant, as a speaker, as a city councillor, as a book author, a mentor, a life and business coach. Slow down. Am I forgetting anything here?
I think you put too much, as a matter of fact. I paid you well for that. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, it's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Oh, I actually forgot. You are a college instructor.
Yes. Yeah, I teach at a college.
You started that only a few months ago.
Yes.
What are you teaching?
Leadership and management, corporate innovation, systems and design thinking at Conestoga College. It's also located in Kitchener.
So your life is in Ontario.
My life is in Ontario.
And what are you here in Vancouver for?
I'm speaking at the World Credit Union Conference. It happens on a yearly basis, and I'm going to be speaking about inclusive leadership. I called it 6 Keys to Inclusive Leadership. And the goal behind it is just, as immigrants, when we come in, you have so much value to give and offer. And we need to start having conversations with leaders and organizations all across Canada to open their eyes to the value that we bring, and then also teach them and help them be able to pull that value from each person. They need to learn to extract and pull. We need to learn to also be willing to share. So it is a combination. Both sides have to meet in the middle. So my job, and I would say my purpose at this phase in my life, is to help open their eyes to those opportunities.
And you have also done that by writing a book that you just launched.
Yes. It's called Inclusive Leadership, The Immigrant View. And it's available on Amazon. So please support a brother. Help me out here. Buy a copy.
So the link to your book is in the description for this video.
Fantastic.
On YouTube, and also in the description for the podcast episode on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. So tell me now, Ayo, can we go back a little bit in time? And
Sure.
And please tell me that funny story that it's funny the way you tell it is funny, okay?
I'm trying to figure out which story.
But that story of when you decided to come to Canada and how you struggled to get a place where you could live with your wife and also to find your first job. But I was watching something before this interview, and I want you to please share with us the moment when you and your wife thought about moving to Canada.
It's quite interesting. Funny enough, my wife doesn't remember this, which is interesting because she remembers everything. I'm the one that forgets everything. We were in traffic heading home one day. There was probably about an hour and a half left of traffic. In Nigeria, every now and then, there's this thing called fuel scarcity, where we have shortage of gasoline for cars. So what happens is, at the end of the day, because cars have to line up at petrol stations to get their gasoline, the lanes get shortened, which extends the amount of time that you're in traffic. So it used to take us about like 2.5 hours to go to work. When there is fuel scarcity, now you're looking at 3 hours, 4 hours sometimes to go to work and come back from work. So it was one of those experiences where we probably left work at 7 p.m. It is like 10 at night. We've been in traffic for like 3 hours. I'm not exaggerating. We still had like an hour plus left in traffic. And we were both exhausted. I'm half asleep driving, and she's 2 months pregnant at that point as well. She's already like gone sleeping, going in and out. So eventually, she just turned to me while I was driving and said, do you really want to raise a family in this? And I remember I couldn't answer that question, because prior to that, a friend of mine mentioned to me that one of his kids called him uncle. And the reason why was because when the kids woke up in the morning, he wasn't home. He had gone to work. When he gets home in the evening, they're asleep, you know. So, when the kids wake up in the morning, he's already gone to work. When he comes back from work, the kid's already asleep. And then Saturdays, he's trying to catch up on sleep. He's going for different meetings. So he was only spending time with the kids on Sundays. So they called him uncle because they just thought he was an extended member of the family. And that was the day he realized, I can't do this anymore. So a friend told me about that a few weeks beforehand. So when my wife asked me this question, that was the first thing that came to my mind. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is true. And I just said, no, I don't want to raise kids in this.
And how long did it take for you to go from that moment to arriving in Toronto?
For me, it took 2 years. For her, it took probably about 7-8 months or so.
Oh, did she have her baby in Nigeria or in Canada?
She had the baby here.
Oh, wow.
She had the
came,
baby here.
had the baby.
Yeah.
And you didn't see the baby for a year.
I didn't see the baby for our son for a long time. I came here on vacation.
Uh-huh.
I took a 4-week vacation, and I came to Mississauga, where she was staying at that point. She was staying with her mom at that point in time. So I came. The baby hadn't arrived, so I was hoping that I get to see the baby. I did get to see. I was there when the baby was born. Probably one of the most traumatic experiences of my life, watching a child being born in the hospital. But I left a week after, and I didn't see my son again for probably another 5-6 months.
Uh-huh.
So the only experience I had of him was WhatsApp videos being sent to me, that type of thing. And I try to share this with people so that Canadians understand the experiences that immigrants go through just to make a decision. Family apart for almost a year. Seen my kid for when he is 5 months old. The next time I saw him after that was almost when he was like a year old, So all these spaces far in between.
And what were you doing in Nigeria when you came? What did you have to give up on and come here to start from scratch?
I was working at a media firm. We had several TV stations under the media firm, and I was leading the radio. I was in charge of radio. I was offered a VP role in the organization. I turned it down, and then I started my own consultant firm. One thing I was able to do when I joined the radio station, I was within 3-4 months, their sales had doubled, which was a great feat. And I was going around teaching other organizations how to really help develop their leadership to be able to achieve their results. So rather than do it off the side of the desk while working full-time, I pulled out and I just focused on consulting full-time, which was what I started to do. So I had started my own consulting career. My wife was working at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and she had already gotten 3 promotions in a span of 2 years. So we both had promising futures in Nigeria. But Nigeria had what I like to call, there was a book I read some time back that mentions VUCA economy. So volatile, uncertain, it's complex, it's ambiguous. Combination of all of that happening, and we just had to leave it all and basically start all over when you come here.
And how was that beginning for you here? Because finding a job is one of the main challenges that people face, but it's not the only one. The other ones are networking and finding housing and friends. How was it for you?
You're starting all over, and Canadians need to realize that you're literally starting life all over, at a much older age.
How old were you?
I arrived in 2016, so 84, I'll be 32 years old at that point. I was probably 32, 33, within that frame. So yeah, when I first arrived, finding housing was a challenge. Luckily for me, because my wife came a year before me, she was already doing a lot of that. And luckily for her, her mom had lived here for quite a while. So she had a place to stay while she was searching. So we were considered lucky. Not many people have that, because many people come and they stay in Airbnb looking to find a place, or they stay in a hotel looking to find a place, or they stay in some rickety corner, one of their friends, 1 bedroom, and it's a whole family and staying in 1 bedroom, and you don't want to step on people's toes in their small house or whatever. So we were considered, I would say we were quite lucky and privileged in that area. But finding a house, then landlords are asking you for credit history. We don't have credit history because we're new in the country.
Yeah.
So that was another problem that we had to face. And finally, we were able to get someone that was a co-signer, guarantor, which was my wife's mom. She had the credit history. She had those things. That was how we were able to get a place. It wasn't even necessarily a good place. It was just a place. In fact, I think the second day moving in, we had to call the police, or the police was called in that neighborhood, and someone wanted to fight me. Within 48 hours of living, we're like, what did I sign up for?
Someone wanted to fight you?
Yeah.
So what kind of neighborhood was that?
It wasn't a good neighborhood, I'll tell you that. It was just one of those shady type areas, and we had to get out of there as quickly as possible. So for all the recruiters out there, you zoom in on me. For all those recruiters out there, it is important that you note this. When you look at the resume and you see an address from outside of the city, it doesn't mean that individual, this person's outside the city, and you automatically eliminate them. No, that person is probably living with a friend or a colleague and looking for a place to settle. So like my wife, we were staying in Mississauga, or she was staying with her mom in Mississauga. Kitchener-Waterloo is an hour plus away. That was where she found work. As soon as she found work, that's when she started looking for an apartment in that place. So I think recruiters end up getting that wrong because they're always looking at where do you live first to make a decision.
Yeah.
Immigrants are willing to move anywhere.
Because that's how our school system works, right? You can only send your kids to school where you live.
Exactly.
But you can actually work anywhere and move.
And I think it's important that people notice this, because if we're bringing 500,000 immigrants by 2025 and we're growing at a rapid pace, it's going to get to a point where 1 out of every 3 individuals here in Canada will be an immigrant. Recruiters, leaders need to understand the immigrant story so that on their end, they can do better in bringing and recruiting and supporting immigrants within their organization.
How much work still has to be done, in your opinion?
There's still a lot of work. There's still a lot of work that has to be done around education, educating people. There's a lot of work that needs to be done around even just helping people see immigrants not as a threat, but as a value add.
Mm-hmm.
There is still a lot of work that needs to be done around the different categories of immigrants that are coming in. Because, and I want to make sure I say this the right way, and if it comes out the wrong way, I apologize to everyone. There are times where people are intimidated by your confidence. Mm-hmm. Or your audacity to dream, because they weren't expecting it. Because in their mind, they're helping you. Oh, you're here in Canada. Oh, we're helping you by coming here. But then, how dare you dream? It's not said in words, but in behaviors and the way people interact with you or respond to you sometimes. And it is important that we educate people. A large majority of immigrants that are coming in through the economic category. At least as of right now, you're looking at 58 to 60%. Economic migrants. They're coming in with money. They're coming in with education. They're coming in exposed, experienced. They have led organizations. They have led people. They've managed multiple projects in their home country. So they're not coming here and starting life from scratch. These are people that owned homes. They probably had drivers. They had cooks. They had all these different amenities back home. So the level of knowledge and experience is quite high. And they're not seeing you as anyone higher than themselves. They see you as an equal. And that is a challenge for many individuals. So it's quite interesting. We need to do a lot of education. We need to be able to reorient people. We need them to see people as value adds and to think differently. You don't hire an immigrant to plug a hole in your organization. Hire an immigrant to add amazing value within the organization.
Did you go through that experience firsthand?
Oh, yes.
How was your job search when you got here?
My first job was easy to actually get. But from the first to the second, that's where the problem started. And I'm really glad that happened because it taught me so many things. And it helped me empathize with immigrants that come in. If I only got that first job and I didn't struggle through the second, I would have said, oh, it's the immigrants that are having issues.
So what jobs are we talking about?
Okay, so let me start with the first one. The first one, I was able to work as a management consultant for a consultant firm. I came in, I went to play volleyball one day, and I met someone who introduced me to, they invited me out for an event. I went for the event, and the person that was sitting next to me at an event said, oh, you need to meet my mentor. He owns his own consultant firm. At least maybe you can start learning about the industry since that's what you did in Nigeria. Oh, great. I meet the CEO of the company, the mentor that he introduced me to, and the guy literally says, we're about to post for a position. Would you be interested in that position? And that's how I got it. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting in meetings with board members. I was sitting in meetings with, executives, C-suite members.
So it all sounds good.
Oh, it was awesome.
I thought we were talking about the bad experience.
Oh, wait, it gets bad.
Okay.
It gets bad. The vision was, okay, you're going to be one of the trainers, one of the consultants within the organization. But then it started as you're going to be one of the consultants. In fact, my first few sessions, I co-led the session with the CEO. But then as time went on, I just started noticing I was taking more of the back seat. Oh, just write notes, Oh, just type the email. And then it became, oh, you're in the corner office. And then it became, oh, you know what? We just want you to start making calls and cold calling companies for us. And then it became, oh, you're not needed within the organization anymore. All within a span of 6 months. So I went in with these big dreams, and we were talking succession planning, actually, when I first arrived. Within 2 months, we were talking succession planning. Oh, we're probably going to retire in a few years. So let's start putting plans in place for us to have new leadership. And you are someone that we see as going to be one of the new leaders.
So what happened?
I don't know.
And they will not tell you, right?
Till today, I don't know.
Yeah.
And there are many times where we lose opportunities. I know many immigrants that lose opportunities and still don't understand what went wrong.
I'm glad you touched this point because in Canadian society, especially when you're talking to people about people who have been here for more than one generation, they are very averse to getting conflict. Mm-hmm. And sometimes just telling people what is wrong with them mm-hmm. or why they're not a good fit or giving negative feedback is very uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
For the person who is giving the negative feedback, because they think, oh, you might not like to hear that, but it's actually more painful for me to say it. And they will not say it. They will ghost you. Mm-hmm. They will exclude you. They will stop interacting with you, mm-hmm. but you will not know why. And you can't even change it. I learned to just get over it. Look, okay, people are going to love me. They're going to hate me. They're going to ignore me. I have to keep doing what I do best and try to become a better person. But you can't go back and, hey, what did I do wrong? They will not tell you.
You're so right. You're so right. In fact, when I interact with a lot of Canadians, I always ask people I give you free reign to tell me what needs to be shared. Please, just, if you can't figure out how to say it, say it. And on one end, I sort of understand where you're right. It's a very risk-averse culture around that area. And then it's also a high suing culture. Here in Canada, a lawyer could take up a case without being paid because they know they're going to get a commission or a percentage of whatever the payout is afterwards. So I think sometimes, and I might be wrong on this is just me inferring and thinking through this, sometimes people would prefer, in case we get sued in the future by this person, in case this person claims discrimination or racism or whatever, I would prefer not to say anything than to say something that could be used against me in the future.
For a liability.
A liability issue. So people would prefer to just go through the motions, get rid of the person quietly, and label it as whatever it is that cannot be... there was a point, I was fired from a job once, and I called the VP of HR and I said, I need feedback so I can grow as a person. What do I need to do better? And I'm not recording this. I'm not suing it. I want to learn for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see the person was struggling to give me the messages, and he was trying to just ensure, I hope this guy doesn't sue us or record this.
Yeah.
But I just simply wanted to learn and grow as a better person, because that was my second time being fired. Third time, it would have been, I probably should have gotten fired 3 times now within 3 different organizations. But it was the second, and I was just like, no, I don't want this to ever happen again. So I wanted to get feedback, and I was craving it so I can grow. So I had to reach out and call him. And I'm gracious and grateful I'm grateful rather that the individual was willing to take that risk to share the information.
And what was that feedback?
It was more like your communication, not fit in the culture, Now, many people that are probably watching this are probably rolling their eyes like, oh gosh, those are suing elements. You should know. But I sort of understood what he was trying to say. And I'm going to be writing a new book. Hopefully I'll finish. I'm not started yet. But I'm hoping once this one has gone through, I want to start working on that one. I already have a title and I already have the breakdown of the chapters.
Is it about this topic?
Yeah, it's about this topic.
About how to get fired and get feedback?
No. It is. I'm going to get hit hard for writing it, but I think it's important that we say it. And not many people are going to like it for it. But the chapter or the area is going to be called The Art of Crouching. That's what I'm...
Crouching?
Crouching, like slouching. Maybe that would be a better word.
The art of
slouching.
Slouching.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's what I mean by that. When in the monkey or chimpanzee world, I'm not sure which one.
Yeah.
But in that world, when there is a dominant chimpanzee in comparison to the other one, there is a way the less dominant one would slouch for the more dominant one. I think there is a hand gesture that the chimpanzee does to the other one to show, you are the boss. I am merely, a servant in your world type.
And they scratch each other's backs too.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. Netflix.
I got to watch the documentaries, huh? But when we come in so confident.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're coming in as a CEO that's hired people, if you've led organizations, if you work with executives and you come here, why would I not be as confident as how I was before? People are not used to that category of people. They're not used to that. So I actually had a boss once say to me, Ayo, what makes you think we don't know what we're doing here? I never used those words. I never said you don't know what you're doing here. I never alluded to it, but somehow that was what the person heard from me. Now, keep in mind, when I came into the organization, I was asked to come in and turn certain things around within the organization and help improve revenue. So I'm putting plans and strategy, and I'm making presentations. That's what you hired me for. But then I'm presenting the thoughts to you on what we can do, and your response is what makes you think that we don't know what we're doing here. So when I heard that, it planted a seed in my mind. But when I got the feedback from this VP of HR as well, I was just like, these people want me to slouch. Okay, they want me to, you are the boss. You are dominance. This is your territory. This is your field. So I need to learn how to coexist with someone, but still give that indirect communication like you are the boss. So we're not used to that, and we need to learn it. And not many people are going to like what I just said, and you're probably going to get hate mail. I'm probably going to get hate mail through you. Like, how dare he say something like that about us? Yeah. But the reality is, some of my friends that have struggled in particular organizations, they're way too confident.
Yeah.
And could be seen as a threat. People don't know how to work with that. And sometimes I don't even know how to give that feedback to them. In fact, the introduction in my book, I talk about a guy, I gave him a fake name called Tyler. So the person's name is not really Tyler.
What's the person name?
So the individual, we were on a networking call one day, and he was just sharing his frustration about how he feels like he has to act stupid in this organization just to survive and get by.
Yeah.
And he was very frustrated about that because he's like, I'm sharing my ideas, sharing thoughts, and it's being ignored. And it seems the only time that the attention comes is when I slouch, when I bow to upper. And bow is just a word that I'm using as symbolism for you know more, you're smarter, or whatever. And I felt really bad because I wanted to share this with him. I didn't know how to share it then. I feel like that's why I need to write this next book, to talk about these things. On one end, to embarrass some people, but on the other end, just to help people with coping mechanisms to survive.
Mm-hmm. I also think it's interesting to mention that these things we're talking about are not necessarily critics. This is how things are, and we have to live with them, right?
Oh, yeah. Windmill Microlending share a statistic on their website. 41% of immigrants in Canada experience a high level of stress within their organization. HRreporter.com did a survey. It was a really small sample size of 700 people, but they discovered that 77% of quote-unquote racialized Canadians always felt on guard in the workplace, just constantly not sure, always careful.
Yeah.
We
have to walk on eggshells.
Constantly walking on eggshells. Yeah. There's a book by an author called Matt Adolphi. He wrote a book called Canadian Workplace Cultures. I tell every immigrant to go read that book. It is by far probably the best book written for immigrants.
It's called again?
Canadian Workplace Culture.
Workplace Culture.
Yeah. Canadian Workplace Culture. Mastering the rules of, I forgot what the whatever is, but it's by Matt Adolphi, Adolphe.
And what's the takeaway from the book?
There's some fantastic takeaway. It talks about 10 things that happen within the Canadian workplace culture that immigrants need to master and learn. And one of them, which is in line with what I was talking about, is how Canadians have a very indirect way of having conversations.
Yeah.
Canadians will never tell you that. Many will disagree with that, but it is the reality, because when he starts sharing examples and things of the like, you start to notice it. And it was when I read the book, I was able to start going back, and I started remembering certain comments or phrases that were shared with me, that like, that's what that person meant. Oh, now I get what they were saying.
Give me one example.
Someone would say, you need to be a bit more selfless in your approach. They just said you were selfish.
Yeah.
The person just said you were selfish.
Yeah.
But the person, you need to be a bit more selfless, when you do this. Or, I just want to, somebody reaches out to you, I just want to make sure you're okay for the presentation later today. But then they send you another email, just want to make sure you're okay for the presentation later on. The person is nervous and not sure you're going to be able to take care of it and do it properly. So there is all this indirect communication that is very nice, that is very cordial. And then when we see it, we're like, oh, how nice of that person. No, it's not nice, Ayo. The person is concerned. That's why they're reaching out repeatedly, and you need to address that concern. So we need to go above and beyond to be able to get them to get people to speak up and share. Or I was late for something one day, and someone replied and said, oh, it's okay. It's all right. It's not an issue. Oh, it was an issue, So in the back of my mind, I have to say, Ayo, you were late. It's an issue. Somewhere in the back of that person's mind, it's been noted on this day, at this time, Ayo was late. And by the time you do that a second time, it starts getting documented. And before you know it, when you're being asked to leave the organization, there is documentation of all these different things. And you'll be shocked. Oh my gosh, this person is keeping... But every single time, they were like, oh no, it's okay. I understand. You're new. You're learning. It's perfectly okay. It is not okay, dear immigrants. It is not okay. You must pay attention.
So we have to translate to be able to translate.
You have to over-translate. You have to read into it to get a better understanding. Or someone says, would you mind, dropping this report at 4:00? And for you, you're like, it's really an inconvenience because I need to go pick the kids. I need to do this. I can't get it to you at 4:00. No, the person was not asking, would you mind? The person is saying, I need this at 4:00.
Yeah.
So the would you mind is just a nice way of, but it's indirect communication.
Where does that come from? This need to be the friendliest, the nicest people on the planet. Where is that coming from?
I think it's culture. If you land in Nigeria, the minute the plane in Nigeria lands, chaos ensues. It takes over.
Yeah.
It's just our culture. So people have grown up in a certain culture, and many times they don't realize. And it's important to note this. People don't realize they're doing these things sometimes, because the culture becomes a part of you. It becomes your way of doing things. That is the definition of culture, the way of doing things by a group of people. So it becomes a way of doing things. And when you come from an outside context coming into that, you are shocked. But don't be shocked, because 20 years, 25 years from now, we would probably be doing the same thing and not even realize that we're doing it, because you've now been fully integrated into the culture as well.
You also coach a lot of immigrants. You're a mentor to many immigrants. What are the biggest mistakes that you see people doing when they're trying to get a better life here in Canada?
Number one, I don't think people understand the importance of networking. We hear it, we think it's a nice to do, but I don't think people realize the amount of work that is needed, because you need so many different types of network, but we're not very intentional about how we build our networks. You need a personal network, you need a support network, you need a career network, then you need a strategic network. So that will be the next book as well. But it's those 4 different types. So when I talk to people and I say, what is your strategy for this type of network? There is no strategy. What is your strategy on building this network? It just happens by chance. Or, I'm going to this event, or I'm going to this. No, I like to ask, where do you see yourself 5 years from now and 10 years from now? I want you to spend some time to write it down. Okay, we start building a network today for 5 years from now. You don't build. When I arrived here in Vancouver, first thing I did was I emailed your mayor, and hey, would like to I'm a councillor in another city, would like to just grab coffee. Would it happen? Probably not, but it's okay, because that could be part of a strategic network of what I need 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I don't need the network now. I don't even know what I need the network for in the future, but actively building it. I'm in Vancouver for only 2 days. I had breakfast with someone this morning. I'm here with you now. I'm having dinner with someone today. I met the person this morning for the first time. The person I'm meeting this evening, I'm meeting them for the first time as well. I'm going to an event. I scheduled some meetings with Chamber of Commerce tomorrow as well. I don't know when I'm going to need it, but you build it now. So number one, people are not very intentional, crazily intentional about building a network. So I think for me, that is probably the most important area. Number two, people are not extremely intentional about where they want to be in 5 years or in 10 years.
Lack of planning.
Yeah, when you come in, you sort of have an idea when you come, but when Canada hits you on the head, you apply for 300 jobs, you get 1 call back. Or you apply repeatedly and you get hundreds of rejections. It does something to your mental psyche. And at the end of the day, people stop dreaming big. We start to reduce our dreams. No, don't do that. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years? Write it down. Put it on your wall. Look at it every day. That is also important. Number 3, we don't protect our self-belief and self-image. So when we come in, our self-image and self-belief gets attacked a lot, directly or indirectly. So we believe less in self as challenges go on. I've been through it. I've gone through it. We believe less in self, And as you believe less in self, the actions you take start to reduce. And because the actions you take start to reduce, the results that you see reduce. And then the results that you see reduce, it reinforces your initial negative belief as well. Like, you see, I told you it's not going to work. When I went door-to-door knocking, campaigning for politics, the number one people that said, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to expose yourself and get yourself in issues? And why are you not hiding? They were immigrants, not Canadians. It was immigrants that were doing that. Somewhere along the line, that person lost their belief or reduced their belief. And now they're projecting it on me or trying to project it on me. Why would you want to dream big to run for office, to be a leader in your community? Why do you want to be a CEO of an organization? Why do you think they would allow you to do that? But you have to have the audacity to say, I will add value and I will do this. You know, why do you think, Ayo, you're an immigrant, you're speaking in a conference of 2,700 people? No, because in my dream, I saw 20,000, 30,000. So this is smaller than the dream, but it's a start towards the bigger dream. So that self-belief, you have to be so protective of your heart and what you believe. I know not everyone is a spiritual person, but I'm a person of Christian faith. And in the Bible, it says, guard your heart. It's the wellspring of life. Your life is lived from your heart. So you have to protect it at all costs. And when it uses the word heart, it's talking about like your mind, you know, your belief system. You got to guard it. So when I chat with people, it's one of the questions that I like to ask. How are you guarding your self-belief? It's a strange question.
Yeah.
So for me, I created an email address. And when I applied for jobs, I used another email address. So when the rejections came, because I noticed nobody ever emails me to say, would like you to come for an interview. They call you. So I created a new email address. So I don't see rejection emails. So I would log on to that email once every week or 2 weeks, and I'll just scroll through. I don't open it. But we don't realize when 100 emails come in saying, oh, sorry, we went with someone else, it does something to your belief system. And it did that to me. I was applying for VP roles, and after I got like 100 rejections, okay, let me start applying for director roles. When I got hundreds of rejections, okay, let's go down to manager. You see how the belief is slowly going down, and then eventually, okay, entry level. And we started entry level. And eventually, when someone comes to that entry level and asks you for advice, in your mind, you're like, why are they asking me for advice? I'm a mere entry level personnel within this organization. So because you're trying to survive, your belief system has gone down as well in self. So I think that is another area that people need to definitely watch out for.
Besides your faith, where else do you get motivation from?
My kids.
How many do you have?
I have 2.
Oh, how old are they?
They're 7 and 4.
Oh, I have one who is 4 too. Yeah. Everybody knows how crazy, how obsessed I am with him.
Oh, my kids are wonderful. And in my dedication in my book, you know, I dedicate it to both of them, and I dedicate it to the children of all immigrants. And one thing I said is our kids will see us as heroes in the future. Mm-hmm. So keep fighting today for that heroic badge you're going to get from your children 30 years from now. So we cannot give up because of them.
Yeah. There's another thing that I like to say to you. The harder it is now, the easier it will be tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So I embrace challenges and problems and hardships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Aiden, who is here behind the cameras, we're going to go on a 40-kilometer hike the day after tomorrow.
Craziness.
So I went to the gym and then I jogged around 11 a.m. It was sunny. And then I worked for a little bit here in the studio. And then I ran back home at 4 or 5 p.m. in the sun.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm a little bit sunburned here. And I was thinking the entire time, oh, man, it's so hard today. on Wednesday, I'm going to have a blast. It's going to be so much easier.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Of course, it's a metaphor.
Right.
But we are doing the hardest job that someone can do by moving to another place and restarting from scratch. Now, is that a concern for you that your kids are not going to live through that experience, that they're going to grow up too comfortable?
My hope is that we don't make them comfortable. We want to push them. I was at an event.
How can you do that growing up in Canada?
I was at an event a few months ago. My wife was out of the country, so, I had my son with me. She went with our daughter because she was much younger, so my son stayed with me. So I went to an event with him. He would go to different events and, get him to wear a suit. He sits up front with me. I go up to speak and he's taking pictures and whatnot. So I make sure he's part of those experiences. And then I said to him, I want you to go introduce yourself to 4 or 5 people here and tell them your name, tell them who you are, and say it's nice to meet you. You do that, you get to play whatever game that he likes on my phone, whatever. And he was very embarrassed and shy or whatever. And one person, why are you making him do it? Because he's going to have to learn to do this in the future. He has to start now. That's 1. 2, he reads probably a new book a month.
Oh, wow. And he's 7.
He's 7. Oh, yeah. He reads a new book a month. So I buy books for him like crazy. In fact, we bought a book for my son called Investing for Kids. So there's a book for him about investing. I remember one day my son walked up to me and said, Dad, do you invest in real estate assets? And I'm like, what? Like, it came out of nowhere. Like, we were talking about cartoons or something. Then he was like, do you invest in real estate? I'm like, what are you talking? He's like, I don't know. My book talked about it.
Is that a book by Robert Kiyosaki?
I don't know.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It's called
Or Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary has good books.
Really? I don't even know, but I go online and I specifically, like, I bought him a book on Barack Obama, on Kobe Bryant, on he's into technology and energy. So we got one, Thomas Edison.
Oh, wow.
So we buy all these different books of biographies of people so he can start learning. And John Maxwell shared something that his dad did that my wife and I want to embrace when they get to a certain age, maybe when they're 12, 13 or something. He's going to buy his first shares when he's 10. That's the goal. He's 7 now, and when his sister is 10 as well. But between now and then, he's going to play a lot of Monopoly. Yeah. He's going to play, what's that game called? I think it's called Cash Flow. Cash Flow for Kids. There's Cash Flow for Kids for Cash Flow for Adults by Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. My wife and I play Cash Flow a lot. He's going to play that game as well. I took a renovation course a few months ago where I had to, you learn how to build a house from scratch. I was the only counselor in that, in that place. And people were like, you're a counselor, what are you doing? Like, I want to learn how to renovate. And one person said something to me that was very profound, and my wife and I, we've added it to our list now. He said, when my son is 15 years old, I'm sending him to this program because then he would learn how to build a house from scratch. We were building Elton from scratch. Like, we had to do the framing. We had to knock it down. In fact, I remember at one point, my colleagues and there were 4 of us in my group. We had built our side of the wall, with studs and all that stuff. We learned it. You would sit down, you learn from the teacher. Then they show you how to do it. Then you do it yourself. Nails, hammer, all of that. We built, and we were 103.5 or something, and it needed to be 103. We had to take the whole thing down.
Oh, gosh.
And we had to start trying to figure out all our numbers were accurate. Where did we go wrong? The teacher made us take the whole dagger thing down. I almost cried, Or when your tiling was off and it's not flush or it's not plumb, we take it down. I am sending my son to that when he's 15. You are going to learn how to build. So I think sometimes we want life to be easy for the children, and rightfully so, because we went through the tough times. But tough times build men, build leaders. Easy times do not.
Yeah.
So we have to intentionally ensure that we're also passing those messages on to them. And yes, they don't have to, quote unquote, struggle like we did. let them work hard for it. My mentor challenged me on something. He's like, every child should have a property under their name or a property that you're going to pass to them at the age of 18. When they're 18, they have a choice. They either first, they have to be a property manager. Second, they're going to have to earn a degree. Okay, you got to get your degree. Then I'm handing this to you as my gift, as my hard work all my life to you, for you, or rather. However, you're going to manage this property yourself. You're going to go through this renovation program yourself. Then after you do that for a year or two, now you have a choice. Do you want to sell the property and take all the money and travel around the world and do what you want to do? Once you do that, I'm not giving you, this is it. This is my gift to you as a father. Mm-hmm. Your college education and this property. You're not getting anything else from me. You're always welcome in my house, but you can't live in my house anymore. So you better go get a job. Yeah. If you want to start a business, even better. I will support you through that process, but you are running it. You're pushing hard. So I think we need to learn to push our children that way. Whatever decision you make in the future, I will support you through it. But my job is to instill certain values in you, gratitude, hard work, and those types of things. Oh, one last thing. Sorry, I know we want to move to probably another question. One thing that I'm also learning from my church, and I try to pay attention to what happens with leaders in different communities. One thing I noticed with some leaders in my church is at young ages, they send their kids out on mission trips. When a child leaves Canada, the comfort of Canada, and goes to
the real world,
and they see people going through stuff and they have to fetch water, the morning, and they have to struggle to make ends meet. When they see that, and they do that every year from when they're 13, 14, all the way, and they're part of a mission team, it teaches gratitude, teaches humility, it teaches all those values and elements that we had to learn growing up, and we saw growing up. We have to find a way to get them to be a part of those types.
So you want to send your children on a missionary?
Oh, they have no choice. They're doing that. You want to live in my house? You're going on a mission trip. Even if it's not a mission, you're going on some trips to different places, and you're going to go and serve. Yeah. You're not going there on vacation. You're going to go serve.
To volunteer for.
Oh, yeah. My wife and I will go on vacation. You go serve. That's
very nice. What have you learned as a city councillor? How ugly is it? How ugly is it really? At a provincial level, it's probably less ugly.
Well, someone shared something with me. They said, federal has all the money. The provinces have all the power. And the municipalities have all the problems.
Oh, really?
And I thought that was hilarious when they shared that. But in some instances, I think there is some truth to a lot of that. It has been a privilege.
How long have you been serving yet?
I was sworn in November 14 last year.
Oh, last year?
Yeah, just last year.
It's been only half a year.
Yeah, only been half a year.
And what changes have you already noticed in yourself? Are you more careful?
Yes, you have to be more careful with what you say, because the things that you say can end up in the media. So I have to be...
And it can be distorted.
It can be distorted. It can be taken out of context. And there's nothing worse than things being taken out of context because you feel cheated.
Yeah. You say, no, I never said I hate immigrants. And then they show, I hate immigrants.
Yeah. And it is... I've learned to be selective with my words. I've learned to listen more. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to notice and see that a lot of the decisions are more complicated than we think they are. There's so many extraneous variables, so many stakeholders that are affected. Regardless of a decision that you make, there will be a group of people that will not be happy with the decision, and they will let you know about it. And they have every right to, because you are representing them. Mm-hmm. So I'm learning the art of listening. I'm learning the art of gathering from multiple stakeholders. And I also don't think people notice this. And zoom in on me for this one. I'm just kidding. Dear residents, your councillors are at the governance level. Governance is about strategic planning and thinking. Staff And the leadership, which is like the CAO and the senior leaders, the directors within the city, they are responsible for operations. So it always puts us in a weird place. People don't know this. I didn't know it before I went in. So when people come in and say, oh, we're going to cut taxes, that's just a bunch of baloney. Let's just start with that. Because you cut taxes, then you're cutting services. That's how it works. Mm-hmm. There is something that is being cut. Or, people reach out and say, oh, well, you should cut staff. Well, they're also unionized. So you go start that issue. So there are so many aspects and areas that you're not aware of when you're on the outside looking in. But once you're in, you gain this new perspective. And I believe that's where people feel like politicians are liars. Like, oh, you promised all these things before you came in. Yeah, but the person didn't see the budget before they came in. Yeah, the person didn't see that the budget was not probably balanced before or not well balanced. They did not see all the multiple contracts that have been signed over a period of time. And now you're not just a representative of the people, you're responsible, you have fiduciary responsibility. And you have all these responsibilities that come with it. So there are all these things that we're not aware of when we go in. And then when you go in, you start hearing and seeing these things, suddenly your perspective starts to change. And I believe that's where people feel like politicians are crooks or politicians change when they go in. Many times people that go in with a good heart, but when you go in and then you see all the things that you have to work with, it gets complex and you're now like, holy crap. And that's probably the best way that I can put it here.
And what are the main challenges that the residents of Kitchener are going through? What changes do they want?
Kitchener is broken down into 10 different wards at the municipal level. When you go to province and federal, it changes like riders and things like that. So one thing that I've noticed is the needs and the concerns of my ward, which is Ward 5, is very different from the needs and concerns of those that live at the downtown. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you an example. And that is why diversity is also very important, because communities need to be represented. Different views need to be represented, and different lifestyles need to be represented as well. So, for example, people that live in the downtown core, there is less parking because more condos are going up. So you're not getting 2 cars per household. It could be 1.3, 1.2, or whatever it is, depending on what the code is. And I don't remember what the number is with the code at this point. But people downtown find it easier to just come down, jump on the transit, and just go to where they're looking to go, or jump on a bus. Or we have all these scooters that were introduced downtown that people can just hop on one of those and electric scooters and just go to where they're going, or ride their bike to work. That's the type of lifestyle. When you come to my ward, my people have 2 cars, 3 cars, and a boat, all squeezed into, their little garage. And they're complaining and asking for more parking space because now the teenager has reached a certain level where they've purchased a car for him. That's the parents or guardian who purchased a car for him. And now we just had to approve a motion. Councillor Bill Ioannidis brought forward a motion about people parking on boulevards. Which is, that little spot when you move up and park in your parking spot, there's that little spot before you get on the road. Yeah. We just had to approve so that we can get people off the roads and get people on that. So you can see the difference in terms of the wards and what their needs are. So every ward has a different approach to what they're looking for, but it's more dependent on the types of people that live there.
And I understand this is beyond your realm, but on a national level, your analysis of Canadian society and of Canada today, you're also a business coach and a life coach. So how do you see the future, the moment we're in right now, and the future for Canada? Say in 5 or in 10 years, where do you see us going?
There is a great quote I don't remember the name of the person that said it. Maybe it's Henry Ford. I might be wrong. If you believe you can, you're right. If you believe you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
So in the next 10 years, we can all either see an opportunity or, holy crap, where are we going as a nation? I see an opportunity. We're bringing a lot of smart, intelligent people into Canada. One, I think there is a great opportunity through the people that are coming in collaboration with the people that are already here. I see some, and that's why I wrote my book, because I honestly, what some people see is this, I see this. I see an opportunity for collaborations. I see an opportunity.
Sorry, hold on.
Can we play the thing?
Yeah.
Where should I start again for that?
Where I see, when people see it like this,
Okay.
I see it like that. Okay. Canadian, there you go. 1 hour. We're almost done. Okay. And that's why you wrote your book. And yeah.
And that's why I wrote the book. I usually, when people talk of Canada today, they tend to see this. I see this. We need to find a way to work together with our diversity. Our diversity is our strength. But there's a chapter or a title in my book where I said diversity is only potential power. It's not true power. Applied diversity with great leadership, that's where power is. So I see a great opportunity. I see the people that are here already. We have thousands coming in. We have students that are coming in. We have families that were born and raised here. And I just see, if we can find a way to work together, that is beautiful. So this is a call to every politician. Zoom in on me. I'm just kidding. I just love doing that. And I saw that on TV one day. And someone said, zoom in on me. And I've been saying that ever since. But we need politicians that can bring people together. And I feel like nowadays, the main way people are getting into politics is by splitting people.
Yeah.
And people are taking advantage of, oh, you are from my community. You should represent me. But there's a danger in that. So if someone that is not from your community goes into power, are you saying that person will not represent you? Are you saying you will not love the person? You will not care for the person? Are you saying this person will not be a leader for you and not think of you as someone that they need to serve? We need politicians that are going in to serve people, not just people that look like them, sound like them, talk like them, have the same culture. Beyond that, I have had people come to me and say, oh, you need to be careful of Indians. They take over. And I'm like, oh, wow, my best friends are Indians. Probably one of the most hardworking people that I know are in. I am learning so much from the community. We see people as threats that are different from us.
Yeah.
I say go learn from the people. Integrate yourself into that system. Go learn, try the food, learn the culture, try to understand the people. Don't see them as threats. How can I better serve? How can I work with this person? How can I partner with this person? Those are areas that we need to think about. And immigrants, when you come in as well, I think it's important to the immigrants, go beyond your community. Do not fall into the trap of my community is my comfort and that's where I'm only going to go. No. There are Nigerians out there you need to meet. There are Brazilian Germans out there that you need to meet. There are people from Thailand that you need to meet. There are people from different countries that are coming in with, I call it, big shout out to John Massimi. I ran against John Massimi in my ward. And John is part of this community called Asset-Based Community Developments. And John talks about the gift of the heart, the gift of the head, the gift of the hand. And when I learned it, I was like, ooh, I love it. And I put it in the book by now, though. So thank you, John, for that. But when immigrants come in, are you seeing a threat or are you seeing gifts? Gifts of the heart, gifts of the head, gifts of the hand that are coming into your community that could bring so much value. Until we all change our orientations, we're not going to change. I've had people ask me, which political party is better? Yes, I have my preference in terms of the party that I support. However, I think every party is needed. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? If you don't have the NDP and the Liberals pushing from the social area, we need to care for the people and take care of the people. You're not going to have that kind of mindset and thinking. If you don't have the Conservatives saying we need to take care of our businesses, we need to make sure that we're economically sound. If you don't have that tension and that pull, we're not going to think about that. If you don't have the Greens pushing and saying we need to be climate friendly, we need to remember the climate. One of my councillors is running for a Green Party nomination, and she is pro-climate. I had never thought we don't have trees planted anywhere in Lagos. I had to think about it in Nigeria. I'm like, do we have trees in this country? Like, we cut everything down, and it's super hot. And, we're also going through our climate change crisis at this point. But it was from her talking and bringing it up over and over again that I bought my first book on climate change, that I bought my first book on being environmentally friendly, and I bought another book on building affordable cities. Why? Because she kept bringing it up over and over again. And because of that, it made me start thinking. So we need that diversity of thought, but we need people to be open to diversity of thought, respect one another as we share with one another, and live and let live is really important as well. We need all those types of things, and we need politicians that can lead from the front with that mindset. So for that individual that came to me and said, be careful of Indians, I could have leaned in and be like, oh no, tell me more. And then suddenly they start planting fears in me. And then the person that could be my supporter, could be my colleague, now I'm seeing him as a threat, whereas I should be learning from him. And you need to talk to him. Well, you've already interviewed Nick Noorani. The amount of questions I ask Nick, the amount of learnings that I learned from him. Peter Hawkins, who you should have as a guest here as well whenever he's back in Vancouver, because he's amazing. Peter Hawkins is a businessman, is a member of the LGBTQ plus community, 2S LGBTQ plus. I learned so much from Peter. When I call Peter, I'm calling him asking questions. Peter, how do I do this? How do I do that? And he is, all right, try this, try this, try this, try that. Peter pushes me. Nick pushes me. They're not from my background. They don't speak my language. They're not from my country. They're not from my culture. They're not even from the same faith as I am. However, we have to learn to live and let live, respect, learn from one another. And I'm sure as much as I learn from them, I hope they're learning from me as well. So it's important that I see the future. I know I've rambled for a while. I apologize. But I see the future as bright if we learn to come together. And right now, we are not coming together. We're using our differences to separate ourselves. And I came from a country where that was done for decades. And things like that lead to wars. They lead to mistrust. And you stunt your growth as a community when you don't come together to work together.
And what would you like to say to someone who came to Canada or who was born in Canada and had a bright youth, a lot of potential and lots of dreams, but life just hit them, reality hit them, and with all those obstacles in their lives, they just started to give up on those dreams?
That is a great, fantastic question. First of all, many of us have been there. We've all gone through it as well. So it is not new. You can come out of it. Here are some things that I have done. Number one, I had to find people that believed in me. In fact, I had to find people that believed in me more than I believed in myself. When I called one of my mentors that I wanted to run for office, I wasn't sure I wanted to run for office. I'm a Black guy running in a ward that we knocked on thousands of doors. There were probably 10 to 15 people that looked like me when I knocked on doors. They were mainly Caucasians and Indians. So I was like, I don't think this is for me. His response to me was, he cut me off when I was saying that. He said, I will be disappointed if you don't. That was the phrase of someone that believed in me. But I needed to find people that believed in me. And I've surrounded myself with people that believe in me. And I've mentioned some names of some of those people. Sometimes when they talk to me, I'm scared of what they're thinking. Like, oh my gosh, slow down. That's way too much. But they see so much more. So you need to find people that see things in you that can help you bring it out. And you need to surround you. We don't surround ourselves with those types of people. And that's what I meant by strategic networking. So you got to find people that believe in you. Second of all, you have to start re-believing in yourself. You have to start saying your dreams back to yourself, speaking life back to yourself. Words have power. The Bible says, I apologize again, I'm going into the Bible. The Bible talks about, power, life, and death is in your tongue. So you can speak life to yourself. You can speak death to yourself. Many years ago, I wrote an article about an individual that I knew when he passed away, and we had asked the doctor what happened. The doctor said, was he depressed? And we said, yes, he was depressed. And he said, he literally talked himself to death because there was nothing wrong with this individual. But the individual had gone blind at some point in their life. And I remember they repeatedly said to themselves, and I would hear them and I tried to stop them, like, there's no point in living anymore. I should just go. I should just die. There's no point in living anymore. And he said it so many times that by the time the doctor was given feedback to people, he shared, this person talked themselves to death. You can speak life to yourself. You can speak negativity to yourself. So watch what you say to yourself. Counter any negative thing that you say to yourself. It's so crucial. So you also have to surround yourself not just with mentors, with colleagues that are doing amazing things. We tend to become I don't know if you heard this quote,
The average of the 5 people around you.
Thank you. We hear these things, but when you ask people, okay, have you been intentional about the people you surround yourself with? Yeah. You'll be shocked. We're not intentional about it. I started to eliminate certain people that thought a certain way around me. And I needed to start surrounding myself with people that thought differently. I started to surround myself with CEOs and owners of organizations. So when we talk, the way they talk, the audacity of what they say shocks me. It's like, oh my gosh, like, how do you speak so confidently? But to the person, it's not a big deal. That's just them talking. Yeah. Like, I'm going to be leading this in the next few years. Oh, I'm going there to go turn things around. How do you know you're going to turn things around? It's a belief in self. Oh, I have full confidence in myself that I'll go in there and turn it around. When I say it, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to go in there and turn it around. But when you surround yourself with people that talk like that, it is not arrogance. It is confidence. It is confidence. Yeah. And then how did you get that confidence? So surround yourself with mentors, surround yourself with colleagues that speak that way. And you need to think differently and speak differently to yourself.
It all starts here in your head.
Absolutely.
Great. Ayo, you have hundreds of people waiting for you at the conference. How many people are you going to talk to today?
I don't remember, but the conference will have about 2,600 people in attendance.
Nice.
So I'm really excited. I am 2-3 hours late at this point. I speak in 2 hours, but I'm really excited, looking forward to being in there and really doing some amazing things.
Thank you so much for coming here today, and I feel fired up. Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely.
And for those who are listening or watching this on YouTube, remember to check out the book that he just launched. That is here in the description.
Yep.
And remember to share this video too and to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. That will help us tremendously at this stage where we're just launching this podcast. Thank you so much, Ayo.
Thank you.
And thank you guys. See you on the next episode.